Well, hello traders and investors. I'm Elliot Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets, doing it from a neoclassical perspective, each time asking ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about the coming days. I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday. It's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube. It's under the channel Elliot Little. If you'd like to subscribe, reach up in the right hand corner and do so anytime I push content. You'll get a notification, and that way you can stay up with what's happening. As far as what happened today, you had good follow-through elsewhere, not in the U.S. You can see that here with the German DAX, right? You had a 0.67. You certainly had it in the Nikkei, where you had another big bounce. That's 2 days in a row, 3% basically. Hong Kong also, and I don't have it up here, but the SSEC, which is the Shanghai, also pushed higher. Elsewhere, though, your gold got hammered back down. You had silver down. The UNL, right? All of these moving together. The USO actually shows down a little bit. We're going to look at the WTI a little bit later. And, for the most part, the indexes themselves, right, just basically went sideways. Didn't do anything. So no follow-through on the indexes. Before I begin about it, let's take a look at that crude oil market. I've got the West Texas Intermediate basically up here so we can see it. And what I see on this chart, or what I want to show you on this chart, is that for the most part, this has pushed right up to the swing point high, right? Has gotten over, or actually to the, but it's tested it 2 or 3 times now. Has been able to get over it. Question is it going to be able to push over it or not? The volumes back there were not huge. Unfortunately, we don't have volumes here to compare to yet, so can't make that comparison. All I can see is that you push up to a straight line fashion and you consolidate. And you've got the reason I'm bringing this up, of course, is you've got the meeting on Sunday where they're supposedly going to cap production. They're not going to reduce it, but try to cap it. And from everything I've read, the expectations are about 50-50 that they'll be able to do something. So this market clearly, has had a huge run already. You had the big spike up, right? That was basically a 50% rise, of 40% or so. You get the pullback, right? And now you go right back up to that area, and you're going to hang there until you get that news event. And either you're going to continue it or you're going to fall back. Now the question, of course, is, which way is it going to shake out, right? Is it going to be a fall back, or is it going to continue? If you bring it to a weekly chart, so you can get a little better perspective, it's coming into and doing a retest, regen off that prior swing point low. That low was here, and as you can see, it's pushing up about midway into it so far. Hasn't been able to regenerate the downside, and still could push up to the upside, and that upside target is about $46 on this contract. So, $46 from here is another 10%. That's the upside, push, if you will. You actually have overlaying retest regen zones in that area. So, if this thing does push up into there, you're going to have this zone as well coming into effect. So I suspect that's going to slow it down in that $46 range. And so even if the push takes place, that's where I would expect it to trade to. If it fails, and if we do come back down the other way, right, then where's your targets? Your targets are the prior swing point highs on the daily charts, and that's in this area back around 35. So that's the risk reward. On the downside, you got about 6. On the upside, you got about 5. So you're right in the middle. As to which do I expect, I don't know which one it's going to do, and I'm not sure I would try to guess which one it's going to do. You're still in a bear market until proven otherwise. It's trying to prove otherwise, but it still has more to go in order to do that. So right now, we simply don't know. Let's go look at the indexes. So I was talking about last night that you needed follow-through, and you didn't get the follow-through. You essentially got over-under bars on all these indexes tonight. Now that's not, because the trend has been up. You've been going straight up, and then you took some sideways moves, and now you're trying to push out and break out again. But given where we are, and if you look at the weekly chart, given the resistance that's up in this area, you need follow through now to convince you that you can actually go higher, and today you didn't. So yesterday's high 2083.18, today's high over it, back under it, but because it's in the direction of the trend, the over under is an over on a bullish trend, I can't pay that much respect to it. In other words, it isn't going to tell me the market's going to pull back tomorrow. Now, the fact that I got it on each and every index gives it a little bit more credence. There's the NASDAQ, here's the NDX, and if you look at the Russell, it's the same thing. So you have some credence in that this thing, in fact, could pull back because you've got it across all the indexes. But that's not a kind of signal I'd put a bunch of money on. Certainly not in this kind of a bull move. So that's the indexes. If we look overseas, the overseas markets actually did a little bit more of the extension to the upside than we did. Of course, the overseas markets much more oversold than we are. The Australian market, nice big push there. If we look at the French market, and I'm just kind of taking them in order, a push as well, continuation. The DAX continues higher as well, going after the swing point high. I already mentioned the Nikkei taking a nice big spike up. That's 2 days in a row, more than 3%. I saw the Japanese central banker come out today and saying that the yen has sold off way too much, basically, and that threatening basically to intervene. And so that's the kind of push you got there. Let's see if Switzerland pushed as well today, and they did. So Switzerland's now finally going to go after the swing point high. If you look at it on a weekly, it's still pretty weak, but certainly a little bit of an improvement. And let's see what the Shanghai, it's still up there, hasn't done much more. And finally Korea and Hong Kong. So Korea goes and knocks out a swing point high on the daily, and a continuation over a swing point high on the weekly. And finally, if we look at Hong Kong got, let's see where Hong Kong is here. Hong Kong, where are you? I guess I need to click on the right button. So kind of a doji, not quite a doji, but not a particularly nice bar as it goes up. Look what it was doing. So it finally does the full retest, regen into the swing point low. Let's pick it up here. It's right in that area there. You can see it came right up into the top of it, and that's what gave it that ugly candle. It's amazing how these always seem to work out. Why is that resistance? We could speculate as to why, but certainly the market always seems to respect it, which is why it's significant, which is why we look at it in neoclassical terms. And so the indexes themselves, with but a day to go in the week, you're at new highs. And if you pop the S&P back, you're actually breaking a swing point high here, and you've already broken it on the daily time frame. And so you've got the potential here for breakouts on multiple time frames. And again, it's not as much credence because you have a situation where you're pretty stretched already on the weekly. There's the daily breakout, and then if we go over the weekly and move it down so we can see that one, it's right there. And so you've got the breakouts taking place on both time frames. It will be very interesting, even if you're not going to get the follow through, it will be very significant, let's say it that way, if this actually can hold this breakout. If it fails, then that's a test failure of this high. Even though it will have happened on more volume, it will be a test failure of the swing point high and probably lead to some sort of an attempt to pull back again. That's it for tonight. Thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next time. Good night.